we all know that teaching is a fundamental part of Pesach, right? At the Seder, we have to teach our children and ourselves about the miracles that Hashem performed delivering us from slavery to freedom, from Avdu to Cheru. But it's not always so easy to teach our children. When we become adults, we forget what it was like to be a child, right? A child is always told what to do, and adults, whether it's the parents or the teachers, can sometimes forget and talk to the child rather than placing themselves in the child's shoes and figuring out the way they learn best, the way they can best absorb the information being taught to them. The Seder, however, provides us with the perfect lesson plan for how to teach our children and ourselves about Yetziat Mitzrayim. Just a few pages into Magid, the retelling of the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim, we come across the four sons, four completely different sons or children. One who is wise, one who is wicked, one who is simple, and one who is unable to ask. Scientists and psychologists have developed different models to understand the different ways that people learn best. One popular theory, the VARK model, identifies four primary types of learners: visual, auditory, reading, writing, and kinesthetic. Each learning type responds best to a different method of teaching. Visual learners prefer to see information and to visualize the relationship between ideas. Auditory learners will remember information best after reciting it back to the presenter. Kinesthetic learners will learn best through hands-on activity, and reading-writing learners will learn best when they engage with actual text. Take a moment and think about what type of learner you are. How do you learn best, right? What's the best way you can remember information? So if we apply these four learning styles to the four sons, the Haggadah is teaching us that many different types of people exist in this world. Imagine the parents who have all four types of these children. It would seem impossible to teach them all the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim. How can they all understand that story? On the contrary, the Haggadah teaches us that each son or child can learn the story in his own way. The parents just have to learn how to engage their learning styles, right? Each child's learning style. Even the wicked son still receives an answer to his question. Although we may believe it's better to avoid conflict and to not answer the son or to ignore him because it's just easier to ignore the more difficult child, the Haggadah teaches us that even he still deserves to be taught the story. So I think it's of no coincidence that the COVID-19 pandemic is occurring during the month of Nisan. Just 3 weeks before Pesach is when we all had to stay home. And in fact, so for these past 3 weeks, if we're parents or teachers, we've had to learn how to homeschool our children or how to teach our students remotely, right? As parents, we have to figure out how our children learn best in our homes. Do they need multiple breaks throughout the day? Do they thrive on following a certain schedule each day? Do they become easily distracted? What do we do when they become distracted? How do we calm them when they become frustrated? If we have more than one child, how do we properly divide our attention between our children, especially when one child requires more attention than the other child? As teachers, we've had to learn how to run a Zoom classroom, how to keep our students engaged, how to transition our curriculum to an online platform. As individuals, we've learned about ourselves and how we best respond during unstructured and uncharted times. How do we thrive? What makes us anxious? What makes us calm? When we're facing a crisis of any sort, fear and anxiety are inevitable, and they're normal and natural responses to challenging situations. Our brain is infused with danger, and we respond to that danger, right? So it's easy to get lost in worrying and ruminating about all sorts of things that are out of our control, like how the virus can affect our community, how the virus can affect other people around us. And it's natural to get lost in such worries, but it's not useful or helpful because the more we focus on what's not on our control, the more helpless or anxious we feel. And it's just a cycle that repeats itself over and over again. So it's important to remind ourselves and our children and our students what we can control and what we can focus on. We can control our mindsets. We can all control our home schedules, our relaxation breaks, the amount of news coverage we engage in, and more. We can help our children and our students do the same if we become more attuned to the way they and we learn best. So like I said earlier, teaching, as we all know, is a fundamental and obligatory part of the Seder. During the past 3 weeks, I believe we have learned more about ourselves and our children more than ever before, and we will be even more prepared to give each of the four sons or our children their unique individualized answers at the Seder. Chag Sameach.